Safe Work Method Statements, SWMS. What is a SWMS? A Safe Work Method Statement, SWMS, is a legal document that outlines the high-risk construction work, HRCW, activities carried out within a workplace, the hazards that may arise from these activities, and safety measures put in place to control the risk. When is a SWMS required? Safe Work Method Statements, SWMS, are required for high-risk work activities, as defined in the WHS regulations, so it's important that we get it right. Our SWMS provide a risk matrix, hierarchy of controls, PPE requirements and job steps, including potential hazards and control measures. Our SWMS clearly detail the most critical work processes, possible hazards and safety controls. How does a SWMS operate? SWMS must be developed in consultation with workers conducting the activity, or their representatives. SWMS must be reviewed by the principal contractor, fast lane traffic, against criteria defined by them, before the work activity commences. Note that any issues with the SWMS must be rectified prior to the work commencing. Workers must be provided with information and instruction on the SWMS before the work activity commences. Fast lane traffic must either deliver this or ensure that it has been delivered. Work must be completed in accordance with the SWMS, and fast lane traffic must have a system to monitor compliance with the SWMS. SWMS must be reviewed when controls are potentially not effective, e.g., incident, work not in accordance with SWMS, etc., changes to the workplace occur, but introduce new hazards, or as required by fast lane traffic systems, in order to keep the SWMS current to the work being undertaken. What does a SWMS cover? Plant and equipment approved for the activity, approved personal protective equipment, PPE, required, qualifications required to undertake the high-risk activity, permits, licenses required to undertake the high-risk activity, specific training required for the high-risk activity, any material safety data sheets, SDS, that may be required. How to use a SWMS? The safety information within a SWMS is quite easy to read. The SWMS is set out with 7 vertical columns with headings that identify the requirements. Column number 1 shows the item number. How to use a SWMS? Column number 2 shows the specific task, steps or activity that you will be doing. How to use a SWMS? Column number 3 shows the already identified potential hazards and consequences. How to use a SWMS? Column number 4 shows the risk rating as determined using the risk matrix at the rear of the SWMS. How to use a SWMS? Column number 5 shows the controls that must be used to manage the risk. How to use a SWMS? Column number 6 shows the residual risk, which is the level of risk still associated with the task after the control methods have been implemented. How to use a SWMS? Column number 7 shows the specific persons who will ensure risk controls are implemented. Risk management process. A risk matrix is a matrix that is used during risk assessment to define the level of risk by associating the category of probability or likelihood against the category of consequence severity. This is a simple mechanism to increase visibility of risks and assist management decision-making. Step 1 requires that you determine the likelihood and assign a category by comparing exposure with probability. Step 2 is to determine the consequence or severity of an incident if it were to occur. Step 3 is then to provide a risk rating by comparing the likelihood with the consequence. Hazard control measures. The hierarchy of control is a step-by-step approach to eliminating or reducing risks, and it ranks risk controls from the highest level of protection and reliability through to the lowest and least reliable protection. 1. Elimination. Physically remove the hazard. 2. Substitution. Replacement of the hazard. 3. Engineering controls. Isolate people from the hazard. 4. Administrative controls. Documents, forms, policy and procedure. 5. PPE- is the last line of defense. Using more than one control measure from the hierarchy of control is the preferred method to minimize hazards and risks on site. Review of control measures. Once a hazard control strategy is in place, you should review the situation to ensure the risk has been reduced to an acceptable level and determine if there is more that can be done to reduce the risk. Often, several strategies will need to be used together to reduce risk. The acceptable level of risk is determined by our policies and safety objectives. If you have any questions or concerns about the level of risk at a worksite, speak to the supervising traffic controller or call operations. If you determine the risk at a worksite to be unacceptable, work at the site must not start until an authorized person has reviewed the situation. Personal protective equipment, PPE, because of the potential hazards associated with working on or adjacent to road worksites. All persons working on or authorized to enter such worksites shall be supplied by their employer or PCBU, with the relevant high-visibility personal protective equipment, PPE, and clothing, PPC, and shall be instructed to wear it at all times, when required. Personal protective equipment and clothing supplied by fast lane traffic includes the following: fluorescent high-visibility shirt, work trousers, with retro-reflective taping wet weather jacket, with retro-reflective taping hard hat with sun protection, hearing protection, eye protection, hand protection, as required, hand sanitizer, sunscreen, insect repellent and other items that conform with the applicable standards all workers must provide, and wear their own ankle-high safety boots. SWMS Review. 1. Fast lane traffic will review our SWMS annually or after a significant incident. 2. Staff ideas, additions, deletions and comments are welcome at any time. 3. Staff consultation will occur via the Safety Committee with regard to SWMS review. Please now take the time to look at the fast lane traffic SWMS in more detail. Remember, it is your legal obligation to know its content and perform your work according to the content. A copy of the SWMS can be sent to you upon request. A copy of the SWMS is attached to every job booking within Trafio. Now let's see what you have learnt.